Again, thank you all for coming. We have duly noticed the meeting. We have all of our trustees here tonight, so we have a quorum, and our meeting has been duly called and has been duly held. So I think we will start off tonight with, we have some two promotions and a new hire in our police department. And trustee Hire, would you be so kind as to swear our new officers in? Motions, everyone?
Maybe
Does
Commissioner
Kenny want to give a little
Just give
blurb, at least on our new officer?
Let me give the blurb on all three for now.
That would be great.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to mention Police Officer Samantha Wickstead. She grew up in Oakdale, where she lived with her parents, Michael and Heather Wolf. Samantha has two siblings, Nikki and Michaela. Hope I said that right. She now resides in Ontario with her husband, Thomas, who was a New York City police officer for 5 years, who is now a Nassau County police officer in the 4th precinct. Her father also served with the village of Sands Point as a police officer for 30 years. And he was a very good cop. By the way, I know who he is. And her uncle was a lieutenant in NYPD. Officer Wickstead graduated from Queens College and worked as a cadet with the NYPD for 2 years. She was promoted to police officer in October 2016. And her first assignment with the NYPD was patrol. She spent the duration of her career in the 14th precinct, where she earned a steady sector over handling grand larcenies, assaults, and commercial burglaries. We welcome her aboard. I'm happy to announce the promotion of Paul Edwards to sergeant. Paul is a veteran officer. He joined the department in September of 1989, where I was his training officer. During his 29 years with the Garden City Police Department, he received numerous commendations and awards. Sergeant Edwards has served as a patrol officer, a tactical officer, a field training officer, a truck inspection officer, and now promoted as sergeant. So Sergeant Edwards went to college at St. Lawrence University and Hofstra University, where he played ice hockey, having actually run a hockey rink while he was attending college. So this was his wife, Lori, and their 5-year-old son, John. Sergeant Edwards has distinguished himself through his hard work and devotion to public service, showing outstanding character and integrity. He will be an excellent role model for the officers under his supervision. Happy to announce the promotion of William R. Petito to lieutenant. Lieutenant Petito was raised in Massapequa, the son of a highly decorated New York City Transit police officer. From Williamsburg, Brooklyn, he has a sister, Jennifer, and a proud uncle to his nephew, Ryan. Lieutenant Petito received a associate degree science major in business administration from the State University of New York at Farmdale and a Bachelor of Arts degree while majoring in economics at the State University of New York at Geneseo. After a brief experience in the financial world, the Garden City Police Department hired him in July of 1992. In 2001, he earned the position of tactical traffic enforcement. Along with his many honors, in 2001, he was awarded the Excellent Service Medal for apprehending a known gang member who was charged with attempted murder of a police officer. And that was a very good arrest that he made in a very good case. And he put his life on the line. In November of 2005, he was promoted to sergeant. Lieutenant Petito has proven himself to be an exceptional officer and leader. We have no doubt he'll excel in his new role. And having worked with his father, he is definitely his clone, and he's a very good cop. So welcome aboard.
I state your name.
I, Samantha Wickstead,
Solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York
and the Constitution of the State of New York
and the laws and ordinances of the Village of Garden City,
and the laws and ordinances of the Village of Garden City,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of a police officer with the Garden City Police Department
the duties of the police officer of the Garden City Police Department
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
By the powers vested in me as Police Commissioner of the Village of Garden City, I declare you duly appointed. Congratulations.
Got any family here? Got any family here? Want to bring them up? Family, come on up. Come on up. You want to be here? No, they'll take pictures. They'll sit there. Yeah, you got to come up.
Say we. Okay, everybody come on. Say we. Excellent. We'll go again.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Sergeant Edwards. Raise your right hand. I, say your name.
I, Paul Edwards,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York
and the Constitution of the State of New York
and the laws and ordinances of the Village of Garden City,
and the laws and ordinances of the Village of Garden City,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of a police sergeant with the Garden City Police Department
the duties of a police sergeant with the Garden City Police Department
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
By the powers vested in me as Police Commissioner of the Village of Garden City, I declare you duly appointed. Congratulations.
There you go. Hold them up.
Just switch over. Just everybody step to the right. One step to the right. This way. The other right.
That's how you know we get things done here. That's right.
Just keep on going.
Lieutenant Petito. Raise your right hand. State after me. I state your name.
I, William Richard Petito,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York
and the Constitution of the State of New York
and the laws and ordinances of the Village of Garden City,
and the laws and ordinances of the Village of Garden City,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of a police lieutenant with the Garden City Police Department
the duties of a police lieutenant with the Garden City Police Department
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
By the powers vested in me as Police Commissioner of the Village of Garden City, I declare you duly appointed.
Thank you, sir. Come on. Come on, bud. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right.
Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations. Okay, we'll now move to our sort of normal part of the meeting. We have our staff and village administrator run through some of the more, I think are the more important items on the agenda, so that we get some information. And trustees can obviously, and also talk about other things, but where do we want to start, Mr. Suarez?
Mayor and Board, there's a number of items on tonight's agenda. I'd like each of the department heads responsible for this area to go through. There were also some items that are not on the agenda tonight that have come to fruition during the summer months when we didn't have as many meetings, so maybe at some point toward the end of the meeting for public comments, so we can go over some of the accomplishments and progress made on certain items. Yes, Irene, who will our treasurer start?
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. I'd like to review briefly some of the items on the agenda. I'll start with item number 1, the appropriation on the termination reserves. We're requesting board approval to appropriate about $917,000 from the reserve, and this is for 16 employees who had left village service, and 9 of those are firefighters who have left, and the amount for those is about $601,000. Item number 3 is approval to appropriate and funds from our reserves and do transfers to fund the retroactive salary for the fire department's settlement agreement. And this includes the 2% annual compounded increases from, since the 2011-2012 fiscal year. These are amounts that were calculated as per the personnel department. And this amount includes the 2% increases plus any applicable payroll taxes and pension costs. The total for this is approximately $1.7 million. Item number 3B pertains to the settlement payouts as per the fire department settlement agreement. These are the amounts that were stated in the agreement, And these amounts are approximately $1.3 million, including applicable payroll taxes as well. Item number 4 on the agenda relates to the approved CSEA supervisors agreement. And this is for the approved, to fund the approved phrases for the 18-19 fiscal year. So these are the retroactive payments going back to June of this year. The total amount of that is about $28,000. That's coming from the contingent account where we fund current year raises. And we have a portion of that, about $9,000, that's being transferred out to the enterprise funds to fund the allocation of employees who work for the water fund, pool fund, or the tennis fund. And those are the items on the agenda. Any questions?
No, I think certainly from the board's point of view, we've known about all these as we were trying to settle out the fire department, and we obviously knew the terms of our new agreement with the supervisors union. So I think we're all.
Yeah, the other thing I just want to say, I just want to thank Ms. Sue and her team, as well as Ms. Rosenblatt and Mr. Swazi, as well as the mayor and Trustee Delaney for their hard work there. And it was a very fluid situation, a lot of hours over a lot of days, that we ultimately got to the right place.
Yes, thank you.
A lot of work by a lot of people. So thank you all. And you did the right thing, so we did a good thing. Okay, what will be next, Mr. Swazi?
The next items I would say are, well, we have the consultant, item 10. We have the Affordable Care Act consulting. This is the same price that they used the last couple of years, so that's on here. They support us in making sure that we meet all obligations related to that. I would ask also now that Mr. Volker talk about the grant and this Senate meeting.
Thank you. Yes, Mayor and trustees, item 16 is a grant that we get each year. We filed through the town of Hempstead with the Office of Children and Family Services, and the town of Hempstead actually monitors and collects all of the applications and then makes disbursements to the relative villages and throughout the town. This helps offset our expenses for our after-school program, and that's how we qualify for that. So that's on an annual basis, and that's about the amount that we get each year. Item 17, I'd like to just comment on the replacement of the tennis center heating unit. This was a capital item that we had included during the budget process for this fiscal year. I should state that the number, the estimate that we had originally used just contemplated the replacement of the existing gas-fired unit, but through the good work of the engineers in the Public Works Department, they actually looked at enhancing that system for it to be a different type of gas-fired unit. And we'll be eliminating the need for a duct stock to disperse the heat up in the high points of the building. Rather, the heated air is forced into the tennis center through high-pressure jets, and then two very extremely large 24-foot fans are mounted to push the air very slowly down. The efficiency work that we will get out of it save us approximately $18,000 a year in utilities, and we look forward to it. I want to thank the staff for what they did in Public Works. Gave us a better system, they enhanced the spec, and we recommend we have money that we need to request to increase the amount of this original capital project that is before you as well. We ask that it be bonded.
We have, what's the lifespan on this kind of system?
I believe it was, lifespan of the unit was somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. The engineers did a lot of research on this. I want to give them a lot of credit. They reached out to a number of tennis facilities around the country, and this seems to be the best, most efficient way to heat a tennis system like this. We've heard nothing but, we've gotten nothing but good reports back from other tennis centers around the country who use the same system. Very energy efficient. It should make the facility much more comfortable to use in the wintertime. Hopefully, maybe increase membership, but this seems to be the best way to go and the best way to heat a facility like this.
In my understanding, is we have trouble getting this above, what, 45 or something?
When the exterior temperatures drop to below 20, it's hard to keep 35 in there. So people have been very cooperative, but this should really help us.
I mean, are they estimating this will be at 50 degrees without a problem, or do we know?
No, I think this would be a normal, 60 degree climate, normal climate, not in the 30s, 40s, like tennis.
The savings each year, is that as opposed to the old system? I mean, the old system is just not efficient.
It provides adequate heat, and our customers are used to the facility the way it is. What we do if it drops and we get bitter cold and it's too uncomfortable, we shift their time so they don't lose time to later in the season. So this, we're hoping we don't have to do that anymore. The facility is not insulated, so.
I'm familiar with it.
Let's say 18, you said 18 grand a year roughly?
Approximately, about a 50% savings on $36,000 back. So,
And would does this work, did somebody would get a maintenance bond on, or whatever you call that?
yes.
And this is not, we don't do 12 months anymore, right? We do 18 months, we do 2 years. That's in all our.
18 months is the correct number, sir.
Okay. I know we all thought we needed to have a longer time frame in case something goes wrong, so. Okay, great. Any other questions on that? Okay, what's up next?
The building department, is that Mr. Giovanni? Good evening, Mr. Mayor, trustees. This is a request from the building department with the capital project that was allocated to be funded for 1920 fiscal year. We're requesting a transfer of funds of $75,000 just to get a jump start on the construction work for the upfront office area needed to be equipped with the for the new software. So this is a partial of the construction. So just to fill it out a bit more, the 1920 budget was in the 190 range, I believe. But the office construction is needed in advance of the equipment because the equipment won't fit on the current cubicle structures we have. So the idea is to build out the furniture, bring the hardware in, and then the software comes in, which facilitates the training and the use. So we kind of had it backwards by having the office out in the end. So we're just moving a portion of it forward. This is the idea here. I did create a design sketch if the members would like to see a design sketch of the space, the new space layout.
I'm good. This is part of the digitalization?
Correct.
Okay, so people can use it.
Correct.
Where do we stand on this, on the visualization?
With the digitalization project, we're actually at phase 2, probably about 3/4 of the way done with phase 2 right now.
Thank you.
looking at that design sketch, that first transaction for the funds, transfer of funds, will be for the desks to accommodate the new equipment that's happening. So if you look at the quads that are created in the front area, that's going to be allocated for that, partitions and the furniture.
When do we think we'll get this done?
Hoping to start construction with that late November, December at our slow season.
We'll just have to do a workaround, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or things we need to talk about on that
Those
project?
those monitors in the hallway there, are they,
That's the beginning part of the phase, yes. That's the beginning part is the upfront office. That's the second part of the construction, is the outside by the front doors there. We've been trying to create kiosks for all the residents and contractors and architects that come in. It's gonna be almost like a front kiosk for them to access the files.
That'll be the,
Right.
that'll be the
I thought-
portion, that's a portion of the capital funding that's still
Allocated.
1920, we'll do it in 1920. We wouldn't need it before then.
we're gonna secure those monitors?
They'll be secure.
Okay.
It's fairly difficult.
It's standard, right. It's standard in the industry. All other towns and villages have that already.
Okay.
And it's a limited access anyway.
Absolutely. It's only basically download the files, which a simple FOIL request will do right now. We're trying to avoid the actual FOIL request. It's an easy access, a meeting transaction. Basically, they can come in, they can download their property files and go.
Fine, it's in the hallway, so.
Right.
When you say download the files, are they gonna print them off, or are they gonna put it on a disk drive?
No, it's going to be a USB drive, or they have access to email it to themselves. But they're going to have to sign in with name information before they can download that. So we have a record of who's doing that.
I thought part of this was also, you could do it from home.
You can, with the new program, you can do that from home.
Perfect.
But some residents, computers, we're trying to accommodate.
Your architect's gotta go down there.
Right.
Give them your login, so.
Right.
And on the computers, I'm assuming that we're gonna have some type of security code or whatever.
Absolutely.
This way, they're not just sitting there and anyone can come
Right.
do whatever when you guys are not there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What would be next?
So items 19 through 25, well, Mr. Francisco could easily speak for 45 minutes on the many things going on in this department. 19 through 25, for him to go over these. This would be-
So I'm going to start with items number 21 and 22 because they kind of go a little bit hand in hand. Item number 22, I am requesting the board accept the bid for Spring City Electrical for replacement of the street lighting in the business district, Franklin Avenue and 7th Street, with energy efficient LED lighting. If you recall, we had received, and this, speaking about item number 21, if you recall, about a year ago, the village was certified as a clean energy community, and as part of that, we received a $50,000 grant to be put towards an energy efficient project of our choice. We chose to put the money towards the LED lighting project. I had proposed a project at the budget meetings earlier this year to replace the remaining close to 600 non-LED streetlights with LED street lighting. The board had asked me to, instead of doing it all this year, to split the project out over 3 years, which I did. But that required us to go back to NYSERDA and alter the agreement so that the grant, we can still qualify for the grant even though we're doing the project over 3 years rather than 1 year. So 21 is asking for, to accept the bid, and, I'm sorry, 22 is asking to accept the bid, and 21 is to ratify a new agreement with NYSERDA to still be eligible for the grant, but to do it over 3 years instead of 1 year. Item number 23 is a requirements contract. This is a contract that we are establishing pricing for maintenance items that come up during the year in terms of DPW, in terms of fixing a broken curb, fixing a sidewalk, having to do any type of small repairs or medium-sized repairs around the village, rather than having to go out for a bid or having to get 3 quotes, or we now have established rates with the company with a rate sheet. So if we have something break unexpectedly, a curb crack or something like that, I don't have to go through my paving contract. I have rates in place now. I can call the guy out. For example, striping lines in the business district. If we need striping redone, we now have a set rate, and I can have that done fairly quick. Item number 24, sewer main repairs. These are capital projects that spans actually last year's budget and this year's budget. The engineering department did studies and determined sewer mains that are in need of repair, in need of replacement. And this is based off of cammering work that was done a few years ago, and also follow-up work by the engineering department. And this bid is to go out and replace sewer mains that are either collapsed or in very bad condition and need to be replaced. That's it I have on the agenda.
I have a question about 21, energy grant.
Yes.
Is there anything for charging stations for electric cars or anything like that?
There are. That's NYSERDA is also the one that offers money towards that. In order to meet the qualifications of Clean Energy Community, we actually had to state the project up front that we were going to use the money for before we would award us the grant. So at the time, we stated we were going to do the LED lighting project in the village. But I will still follow up on.
Would we have more of a grant if we did those charging stations?
No, it was a set amount of money. But I am looking at charging stations where we have 2 or 3 parking lots on the schedule to be paved as part of this paving year, and I'm looking to have charging stations put into those lots as part of that repaving of those parking lots.
Is this an annual grant thing we apply next year for additional funds for different projects, or just a one?
This is a one-time grant for becoming, qualifying as a clean energy community.
Joe, I have a question. You're talking about potential of having charging stations, start charging stations for who?
For electric cars, well, that's part of the process of trying to figure out, do we charge for them? What, how does that process work? We need to lay out a plan, put a plan in place. For electric cars.
No, I understand it's for electric cars, but I'm just saying to you, I don't think that the village should consider setting up charging stations so that people can come in and charge their cars. I mean, in my opinion, we don't set up gas stations that they can come in here and we get them free gas. So, if someone wants to go out there and they want to buy a car, and they decide they want to buy a $80,000 Tesla, that they can go out there and they can turn around and make the arrangements in their house and have a charging station. Now, if in the event the village is going to consider going to any type of electric vehicles, that's one thing. But in my opinion, setting up charging stations so that people in the village can bring their cars to have them charged is not something that I would be supporting. I think that that's something that I think with the board would have to discuss.
Well, the charging station in Fairleigh, you can charge a fee to use the charging stations. If that option is available, so it could be a revenue stream for the village also. That's
Again, we could also buy a gas station and then we could also just pump gas, but
understood.
at the same point.
This is
So,
supposed to be energy efficient though, that's.
well, again, we can have that discussion all day long because,
So we could.
we could sit there, we could say, well, where's the energy coming from that you put in the gas?
It's just a thought, Bob.
No, I know. Okay.
Well, I think the point is, obviously, this would have to be planned out, sort of what's
Right. This is
the why, and then how would it be done if it
Very,
was.
very early stage. Okay.
The items under the Board of Trustees, and we talk about that now or this, they're not on consent?
They're not on the consent calendar, sir.
Okay, so we'll hold off on those. Yeah. Okay, there's 2 items, 29 and 30, which will just go in order. One of the things the board is thinking about, and we've been talking about it for a little while, sort of feeds into the streetscape concept we're talking about. What do we need to improve, streetscape, sidewalks, parking lots, etc. One of the problems we have is we have several parking lots that are bordered by apartment buildings, and we provide basically free parking on some level to apartment dwellers. Meanwhile, people live in homes, pay for their own driveways, etc. It also impacts our commercial usage and people going to restaurants and stores and things like that. So one of the things we have been thinking about is, do we create a separate districts within each lot, or some lots and not other lots? I know it's been a kick around traffic for a while. The POAs have been talking about it. So that's what item 29 is, and the way we kind of think about it is because we're still waiting for some input from our parking experts, and also I think the planning commission. Again, it's kind of part of the streetscape project. But we thought that maybe it was time to at least do a pilot project in 7N. So we just want to maybe approve this as a concept, but we still need input from police and from the apartments themselves. We need to figure out how many apartments, how many spaces, where we would put them. But I guess we wanted to instruct staff to move forward with that and hopefully get it done by the October 4th meeting. If not that one, the next one, we'll just segregate out in the area and see how many spots we want to do.
I have a question, Mayor. Are we going to move forward with this project at least in 7? And is that your thought?
Yeah, I think it was, let's
Okay,
do
well,
this as a pilot and see where it goes.
I'm against, and we'll vote against this for a number of reasons. The first one being, I don't think that we should have reserved parking in any of the parking lots. That's number one. And number two, the fee charged, in my mind, is way too low. I think it should be at least $100 a month. That's what parking anywhere else would be. And thirdly, I have a concern about moving parking lot off the traffic commission. I don't think that this board should have has the time to be involved in each one of these parking lot operations. But my main concern is I don't think we should have reserved parking. I also have a problem with commercial parking. The commercial parking that I've seen at night are mostly village residents who park their vehicles in those parking lots, usually under lights, so that they get some protection. So I have a real problem with this concept.
All right, if I can comment on this. I agree and disagree with some of the things that Trustee Delaney said. The first thing is I think that this is an excellent idea. The reason that I do is because I have looked at this issue for many, many years. And I will tell you, the more that I looked at it, the more that I realized that I think that this makes sense. The reason that I say that is because the people who live in the apartments live in the cars that they have are there all the time. So if we have 30 people who have cars, those 30 cars are in that lot all the time. The difference is, what ends up happening is by us doing this type of a project, what you do is you take, for example, on 30N, you take those 30 cars and then you basically force them towards where the apartment is. What you then do is you're taking away where those 30 people park all throughout that private lot, and you take them away from where people would go shopping, or go to businesses, or restaurants, or whatever. So in effect, those 30 cars are going to be in that lot anyway. The difference is right now, they are spread out throughout the lot. Depending upon when people go to park a car, they may not move it for a week or 2 weeks or whatever, and you could end up having 4 cars parked right in front of the grocery store that will sit there for 2 months, and no one can ever get those spots. And therefore, if someone goes to the grocery store or Orchid or whatever, they have to park much further distance away. In addition to that, when we have the promenade and everything else like that, what happens is that people look, obviously, to park closest to that area so that they can walk down to the lot. So to me, this makes total sense to sit there and to say, and again, I think each lot is separate in its own makeup, but I think in this lot here particularly, by taking 20 or 30 spots or whatever it might be, I think that absolutely makes sense. Now, the point that I do agree with Trustee Delaney, though not to that amount, is I think $150 a year is way too low to charge someone. The reason that I say that is because we have parking permits over at the train station. I take one myself. And our parking permit is I believe it's $175 for the entire year. That's whenever I go to the train. That's not 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So the bottom line is that if we want to sit here and if we don't want to go to $100 a month for 50 is a little too much. If we went to $250 or $300 for a year, then you're sitting there and you're talking about something which is basically less than, even $1 a day. So to me, I think that that's something which is much more reasonable, but I agree with the concept. As far as with the commercial vehicles, I don't know enough information to give an opinion on that one, but I'm sure as we go over this, Commissioner can give us an input, but that's just my opinion on it.
No. I'll say a few words too. I mean, this largely comes out of the central POA, so I definitely think it's a great idea for reasons Trustee Bolbrook mentions, but also because there is a substantial shift in the center of town towards, the commuter parking, and they're definitely taking advantage of that lot, especially when, you see the other night there's non-residents camping out to get what is considered to be clearly a coveted non-resident commuter parking badge, and they're doing it the right way, and these other guys are just hopping spots for free. As far as the cost, I mean, because it's a pilot, I would suggest we have a little bit of restraint on the cost for now. I think there's a wait and see. Let's do it. This is really more about operationally how it works. I do know that, from my experience with this sort of thing, it's usually the landlords that actually pay for the parking, as the apartments no doubt become more desirable when there's dedicated parking. So, that all said, I think we have time to work out those things. I think a nominal fee right now of $150, if you want to match what we pay for the train, I paid for the train parking as well. You want to do that, I'm okay with it, but I don't think we should go too crazy on the cost right now. I think we put out the fee and then we see how it works, and we may want to, completely change the way the fee structure is in the future once we see how it works. Like I said, I wonder if the resident stands, especially if you're renting, stands to gain as much as the landlord does once this goes into effect when there's dedicated parking. So I would keep the $150 or $175, I forget what we pay for the train, but if we match the train, I think that's fair. You know what I mean? It's for dedicated parking. You can make an argument that, what the overnight parking isn't as valuable as the parking during the day, certainly. So I'm fine the way it's written. I'm happy to put it into pilot phase. We see how it works. There's a multitude of issues operationally that can come up from this. What we're saying is we're behind the idea and we want to work out the bugs. And it's not a new idea to do this clearly. Many villages, towns, cities have tons of programs that do it in a lot of different ways. So,
Do we want in the interim make it a monthly fee? Because again, if you're asking people to pay up front for the entire year, you're now building in a 1 year phasing process.
And to be honest, I think we need that much time to know how it works. I think it's not unreasonable for.
Yeah, the only reason I would suggest not going to a monthly fee is for the village. Now it's going to become a logistical nightmare.
Yeah,
So Mr. Jones, you didn't pay your monthly fee, so now if you go to park there, now we're going to give you a ticket.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they were down in Florida for 2 weeks, so I don't think we do that.
Yeah, I mean, again, this was sort of a concept. We asked staff to kind of move along these lines. We could change it if we formally approve it. And I thought the 150 was what the train was. Is it the trains? 150? Okay, but when we sell them to outsiders, how much did we charge? 400, and the line was out the door, literally.
No, there was people sleeping here. There's people sleeping here for those non-resident permits.
Now, I think what we all should find out, we also should find out though.
That's a non-resident.
Non-resident pays $400 a year.
So, in other words, the problem that exists now is that, and we had a situation where the Long Island Railroad posted a little map at the Garden City Station and said, hey, if you want free parking, go here with a little red dotted line to 7N. So my point of view, yes, this can be considered an overture to the residents, clearly, but it's also trying to cure a problem of the great commuter exodus out of the Garden City train station to this parking lot for free, when there are people lining up to pay $400 and doing it the right way. So we're trying to do it for the residents that use 7N clearly, but also to stem a problem that's
I think, before we, I know we're not doing it tonight, but whatever the fee might be, I think we should also learn what the apartments that have parking, like Hampshire House or whatever it is over there, what do they charge? I'd like to know that, because if they're charging $300 and now we're charging $150, you're gonna see those people moving out into our lot, right, for no reason. And also, I think we have to come up with a number, right? We'll have to, is it one per apartment we'll do? We'll have to figure out what those adjacent apartments are.
That's what I mean, and then I do believe the apartments their value goes up if there's guaranteed parking associated. So
I think they have guaranteed parking now.
No, I mean, they do to a certain degree, yes, but if
It's just not 20 feet from the door.
right, if you're given a space or like a placard that entitles you, I don't know, does the landlord, are we inadvertently passing
I wouldn't go down that road. What I think would make more sense to do is that if you sat there with an apartment, let's say it's 7N, and you said, okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna assign 20 spots. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give 20 permits.
well, then we're gonna have people sleeping outside again. I
Well,
think we should
but I'm
assess the
saying
need.
Well, but that's the thing, what you do is you have to find out,
One for each apartment, how many spots?
but you have to find out
Well,
how
that's what I'm
many.
saying. I didn't anticipate approving this tonight. I anticipated setting this
So
up
let's
for
do the
another
work
meeting
on
to
this.
figure out what this
And
is.
figure it out.
Do you want an individual buying it, or can the parking come in and buy 10 spots because they're first in line?
You know,
That's something to work out.
it might surprise everyone here to know that there are about 529 parking spots in that lot. That's a lot. That's a huge, beautiful parking lot. And yet, with all of the time, some of the best people who've been on traffic trying to analyze this out and figure out a perfect solution, it has failed. So that's why I would support the idea of running a pilot. Let's see if we can do trial and error during this pilot period, pilot meaning temporary, an opportunity to put it in place and study, all right? But I think that if the signage was right in that lot, that we wouldn't have any of these problems at all. But I think it's important also to take into consideration the fact that there are many people who live in Hilton Hall, and they cannot, and that's a reality, even as large as the lot is, they can't, when they circle in after having, say, a job at noon or something, and get a spot somehow. It's a very, very tough problem. That's why I think the pilot is a good idea. And I think we might actually, when we see it in action, as a testing situation, come up with a few better solutions.
I think my other question is, how long is this pilot going to be? Again, do we want to define the parameters of the pilot to say, is it a 12-month pilot, is it 6 months, is it 18 months? Do we want to do that tonight, or do we want to keep it open until we hear back from either staff?
I kind of envision, let's get this moving as a concept. Let's get some more info, and I think Chief Commissioner mentioned to me, it might be a little easier for them also to patrol that lot if you have a segregated area. It might help them figure out who their commuters are using or not. Is that fair to say?
Yes, Mayor, 2 points to that. It would be easier to enforce violations with permit parking. It's much easier to enforce. You don't have to mark and go back. A lot of times when we go back, we get a signed call, we can't pick up the mark, as we say in the business. The other thing would help us with, it will now, the 8-hour zone now, but we have a lot of residents parked there, so it's very difficult to enforce. So if they have it, if there is a dedicated area, that area now becomes a lot easier to enforce. So that's one point that would help us. Trying to figure out the numbers, I think a lot of communities do, they start with a percentage of the apartments, because not everybody has a car or has apartments.
Sure.
So there might be a percentage that this business standard has, I don't know if they have it, there's something with that. But usually there's a percentage, say if there's 100 apartments, maybe 60, whatever the percentage is, and you start with that, and you can start with a corridor and then move out. And then you can always extend it if you have some type of plan.
Well, the easiest way to pick the spots are pick the road that's closest to the apartment first, and then pick the road that's right along Stewart Ave. Okay? So what you do is if you pick those, you're talking about the total perimeter and then the spots that are closest to Stewart. So what ends up happening is that those are the perfect spots to do. And understand this, the other lot that we have, if we've been successful, the lot that we have behind Rebel and those places, again, the people who live there, again, the same thing too, when you go to many of those restaurants, you can't even find a spot that's anywhere near close where the restaurant is. So again, if we now go to that place, and if I'm just looking ahead, and if you know how to assign spots closest to the apartment and then towards the back, away from the stores, it then benefits the businesses and the people as well. When you go to a restaurant now, you have a better chance of getting a spot where you're not walking the entire length of the lot to get it.
Well, I think, again, all we're asking at the moment is not a formal action, but I think that we among ourselves want to get a sense of, is this plausible, should we get more info? So I think we need some input of how many apartments there are just adjacent. As Trustee Bowler said, we maybe plot out where this might work. Some thoughts on how many spaces. And then the fee, I would certainly like to know what people are paying for those buildings that actually do have parking and they charge their residents. So
And I also know
maybe we'll be in position for the next meeting to get more formal to the extent we could, and we may actually have to enact a local law to actually do this, so we'll have to.
Alternatively, the board could, if it chose to do so, ask the traffic commission to make a recommendation to this board on this specific topic and develop a pilot program. That's another alternative to the board, whether it wishes to do it itself or lower enactment, or whether it wishes to task the traffic commission.
Well, part of this was, do we take just parking lot issues
Just the parking lot issues away from traffic.
away, and Trustee Delaney has a valid point, and I'm assuming it was put in a separate place originally for those reasons. We don't want to get bogged down either with, rejiggering parking in every lot every year.
But again, but if you go back in years past, unless I'm wrong, I believe that the parking in the lots used to be controlled by the trustees, and then it was actually brought to traffic. And now what we're doing is we're asking to turn around to bring it back to the board of trustees.
And I think it is wise because just the patterns of traffic in the village, the volume of cars, the activity in the business districts is off the charts different than what it has been, and it really needs organization. Just the permit parking pilot is just one piece of this. But I think I think each POA's representative up here, as the trustees, should be really dealing with this. Because it really affects us all. This is not some sleepy village with some open lots. There's a lot of cars here. All you gotta do is drive around on Saturday and try to get a parking space. Or any day, midday. So, I think it's wise that we bring it up and we talk about it in a larger forum. Because clearly the traffic patterns have changed to such a degree that it needs attention.
Isn't that what the traffic commission does?
Sure, but there's only a couple of us on traffic, right? And I understand we have the direct line with the POA, but I think it's better that we have and review these issues in this context. I think they're just you know, we deserve to talk about them in this forum. They're big issues. I think there's far-reaching implications for the village too. Imagine if we go to permanent parking in all lots, or then that is a larger issue than traffic. There's no disrespect to the traffic commission, but I think it deserves more attention.
We also have representatives from the POAs at the traffic commission.
No, true, when they feel that it's necessary for them to show up. You know what I mean? I do think here, with everybody present, that this is where those kind of larger scale issues should be discussed.
I'll give you my opinion on this, having been on traffic, I think for 4 out of the last 5 years. I think the difficulty that you have in this issue is the parking lot affects so many different groups. And I think that too many times you see particular groups, I'm not trying to pick on anybody, I'm just saying to you, whether or not it's the Chamber of Commerce or whatever, that the demand on these lots is tremendous. You have the businesses, you have people who shop there, you have people who live there, and what happens is in a lot of situations, you have groups that will come and be so strong, and I think that in this situation, again, it affects all of our POAs, not that a stop sign or something else doesn't, but to a much greater everyday part of the area. It affects going to the train station, it affects so many things there. It affects police enforcement of the regulations that we want. So I can understand, again, I can make a case either way, but I do think it should be done with the board.
And the other thing, it's just a matter of making it consistent, I think, with the commuter lots, right? Commuter lots have to, we set the rates to the board level, right? And that's something that's discussed by this board, not by traffic, right? So I think it would just make it parking consistent throughout the village, whether it's for commuter lot or if it's for parking lot.
No, actually, traffic.
The fees, I believe, are set by this board of trustees, but the regulations for the municipal lots are set by the traffic commission.
Oh, no, but as I said, you were talking about the fees.
Okay. And I think that the trustee Goldberg's point, it appears that the addition of municipal parking field authority to the traffic commission was in 1972.
Trustee Foley, you're off the
I
quiet
don't
over there.
personally remember that.
No,
I actually like back then.
I actually agree.
With a horse and buggy space
Yeah, yeah.
smaller or wider?
Count next year.
I walked into that one.
No, I actually agree with trustee Bolivar, surprisingly. Good luck. Yes, I do agree with him. Setting things with fees, I only have been on the traffic commission a short amount of time, but I think you're right, when it comes in front of you, I think it's a much broader issue, and I think setting fees, and you want to be consistent, that is a function of the board, and I'd like to see it there.
Okay, well, again, all we're doing is asking staff to, please, Commissioner. Just speak loudly, go ahead.
This might be also B2B. I believe Parker Field 5, Parker Field 6, and Fair Court are in the village code because they are permanent lots. I believe they're designated as permanent lot areas, so that may be something you may want to consider. I believe it's 5, 6, and Fair Court.
Right.
I believe they are listed in the village code as such.
By separate local law, that is correct, sir.
But I'm not, and I don't think the other parking lots are.
So what is that?
But how does that work?
Permanent lot for free?
No, it's, I don't know, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe they are, if I remember correctly, I guess they were designated permanent lots, and so they were enacted in the village code as such. I believe the railroads are also included in that. And I don't think like Parkfield 10, 90, it doesn't have permanent parking. I believe they are not designated, so I think they're designated more generally. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure 5, 6, and Fair Court are on the village code.
One other point of reference, if I can make it, Trustee Macrinos had mentioned the aspect of how long do we want to consider this pilot. Kenny, I apologize, I forget the numbers, but if I'm correct, Field 5 is the lot that's behind the medical building?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson and I, there were many issues with Field 5, and Commissioner Jackson and I had a multitude of issues, which is the same situation that occurs at 7A. And we tweak things one by one by one by one. And sometimes when you corrected one thing, you created something else. But it literally took us almost 2 years to finally get it all worked out. And the reason that I know that it's all worked out is because my podiatrist is in the medical building. And I will tell you right now, I can get an appointment whenever I want because he just lights Novena candles to me all the time because he says, we finally fixed everything else that's in the lot. And it was by Commissioner Jackson's trial and error, and it took a lot of work. So just to let you know, if we were to start this, which again I'm still supporting, sometimes you have to wait and see what the ramifications are of what you do, and that lot is the most perfect example.
And in no way, shape, or form was Trustee Bolerbrook insinuating or stating that he got a personal benefit for changing the parking
No,
lot.
he's still charged. At least I get an appointment whenever I want, so it's a good thing.
And I think, Commissioner, to your point, there are certain lots designated as official parking lots wherein the traffic commission sets the hours for which the parking can be restricted, but the code provides the authorization for the restricted parking. So it's a shared responsibility.
And that change was done through the traffic commission.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think we have enough to sort of move forward. Again, we're not proving anything, we're just need some help from staff getting some info. Mr. B will help us figure out if we need to do a local law or change some of these
As best as
parking
memory allows for this.
designations. Sorry, we got this long conversation before we actually move. The other item we want to talk about is the ambulance contract. I think this was on our priority list. Trustee Hires put a lot of work into this, so does our fire department, police department. We've spent probably about a year. We had a couple groups come in who were contemplating providing the service. So we are set at this stage, except for a few minor open issues as start date and where they will be housed. But I think we're ready to propose that we adopt an agreement with Winthrop Hospital. Obviously, they're close by. The agreement provides, it'll be a 2-year agreement. It will be, they will provide at least two ambulances dedicated to service in the village. Each ambulance will have 2 persons on it. One is an EMT, and I forget the other.
One's a paramedic.
Paramedic, and one is an EMT. Right now, we are serviced through the county with 1 ambulance, not necessarily dedicated to us, and 1 person shows up. So we're heavily reliant on our police department to help provide ambulance service, and it really taxes the department in terms of providing regular police coverage. It's important we keep the guys on the street and not driving an ambulance back and forth to Winthrop. And again, they do a great job, but it's not an efficient or smart way to use our police force to be driving an ambulance. So that's what that topic, that number 30 is. So anyways, so I guess we can get back to the agenda. So
Along those lines, I just want to thank Commissioner Jackson and Mike Doyle for Inspector Michael Doyle for putting in the time to look at this. I mean, we went and we interviewed several companies, several big companies, and took a lot of time to do that. A lot of mileage.
yeah. And we had them in. We had 3 or 2.
We did. We had 2.
Yeah, gave presentations.
Right.
So, any open or items trustees need to bring up that we didn't talk about? Everybody exhausted? We're now an hour. Not breaking any speed records here. Okay, so I guess we'll now turn to any citizens' comments on agenda items, please. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to cut Rochelle Dowling, Hilton, 100 Hilton Avenue. I think you opened up a big can of worms because coffee privileges. But fee is nothing. It should be at least $300 or even $400 for the year. You're giving the landlord a lot of clout there and improving his apartments. How many apartments are there in Hilton Hall? 120, that's a lot. And probably 75 have cars. Yeah.
I'm sorry, 75 where?
I would say 75 of the residents have cars. A lot of them are older. you know. But I think 150, if you start out at that and then raise it, it causes problems. And I just think it's a very difficult thing to do. There are other departments, they're gonna want something. And, you know, we don't wanna make other residents have that park. So I just think it's very difficult. And as for the other thing with Winthrop Hospital, are they charging us this privilege?
No,
Oh,
no, they will charge your insurance company, and they will not go after the resident for the service if there's any deficiency.
okay, and right now you just go to Winthrop Hospital without any ambulance or?
No.
No, it's fairly complex, but for example, if you're having a heart attack, you have to go to
Right,
the
yeah.
nearest hospital there is. It doesn't matter who's providing the service.
Yeah, but you can go
I mean-
to St. Francis or whatever.
If it's a non-emergency situation, you could tell them to take you elsewhere, but that may affect how much you're going to pay for that
Right,
service.
Winthrop would do the same, or would they just take it Winthrop?
No, if they would,
No, he's talking about Winthrop.
no, if
In other
you,
words, she's saying like, if you say, take me to St. Francis, they go, no, you're going to Winthrop.
no, they won't, no, they
No,
don't take
even
it.
though it's
But
their-
you may get charged differently for
Yeah,
that.
oh, of course,
okay.
but it's their ambulance, so I'm just wondering if they're gonna say, no, you have to go to Winthrop.
No.
But I just think the other thing is, first of all, $150, giving the landlord such clout and improving his property for $150 a person is not enough. And it's just gonna cause a lot of problems with other renters.
Well, I guess it was really before, it's good, thank you for the comment. Why are we thinking it's the landlord who's getting this? Why can't you have to, you show up, no, wait, you show up as a resident, I live in apartment 7A in Hilton Hall, you have to show you live there. That, you're getting the permit, not the landlord.
Yeah, but it improves, he could say, but we have special special parking when they rent it. That's a big thing.
Legitimate?
Which
Yeah, I
is
get
why
it.
having it as a pilot and having it for some amount of time will allow us to assess the effects.
Yeah, but it's hard to take things away and give it.
Well, it's even harder to do things dead wrong and stick to it. So what we want to do is try to accumulate as much information.
And let's not forget, right now,
And do it.
I would assume, and this was part of the reason we actually thought about doing this about a year ago, is that apartment dwellers are getting something for free.
Yeah, but they're residents of Garden City.
No, they're getting something for free.
Yeah, they are.
Okay,
But they can.
that other residents are not getting for free. I pave my driveway. I pay taxes because of my driveway. So, it is different, and that's why we,
Yeah, Mrs. Dowling, I do think that you bring up two valid points. The first thing is that I think each lot has to be addressed based upon the availability of spaces in the lot. So I couldn't agree with you more. For example, the lot that's behind 222 is totally different than 7N, okay? So that's a valid point. But the other aspect that you said, and this is what I had mentioned before, is that you said the aspect, well, it's kind of going to be unfair to the other people who park in the lot. The reality of it is that, let's just say we're talking 20 spots. Those 20 people, they're parking there now anyway.
Yeah,
The only difference is that instead of being spread out wherever they park, we're enabling them to park all the way next to the park. So now what that does is that actually makes the rest of the lot more beneficial to all the people who come and go.
Yeah, it's also about organization.
Well, but I'm just saying,
Yes.
I mean, so you have to, so in other words, you're not penalizing anyone else who parks in the lot.
No, I
That's
know.
not the intention.
And that's not,
But I
you just,
just
you
think
just have to listen to the-
$150 is
To Commissioner Jackson.
Like I said, we're not set in anything, we were just trying to kind of,
Yeah.
so we get, maybe get to the next step with this concept.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
How are you? I'm a new resident to Garden City. I just purchased a home on 4th Avenue in Cathedral. I would like to thank the board for installing that traffic camera on Rosario Parmonte. I'd like to thank the board for that traffic light. I believe it's on 3rd and Cathedral. I think it definitely helped the traffic. But I've witnessed countless of accidents in the corner of 4th and Cathedral.
But yeah, I'm sorry, this is
Just
agenda
for
items. Yeah, open talk later.
Okay, my first board meeting.
Yeah, that's
so I
good,
guess
so
I'll-
appreciate it, glad you came.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everybody. Pat Dumas, on City Place. I think the permit parking pilot is a great idea. 7N has been a nightmare for not only residents of Hilton Hall, but frustrated people throughout the village. And we all know there are good uses, people parking there freely and going to the train station. We know that, it's absolute, I've witnessed it, I see them come and go. So there has to be signage changes, but I think in conjunction with a pilot program, you guys can figure out the rate. I agree, I think 150 is low, so figure out something that makes sense. Do some competitive marketing and figure out what makes sense. Make it a pilot because it does open a can of worms for other parking lots, we know that. But this is a unique situation. Signage has been a problem. People like myself who get a parking sticker for my husband who comes to the city every day, pays one price, and there are people that are parking there freely and paying nothing. And yet we have non-residents paying, what's the number, $400? So, I mean, people are trying to do the right thing, and then there are people who are abusing the situation. So, let's see what we can do with a pilot program. Let's see if we can get some reconstruction of the signage and appropriate parking for the right usages. We've been waiting on this elusive parking survey from the Planning Commission. It's coming, it's been a year plus now. So let's get off let's move forward and force that Planning Commission. And we also have streetscape issues that we're trying to deal with that are in conjunction with parking. So I think let's start here, get the wrinkles out and figure it out and go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on agenda items? Okay, seeing none. Okay. So we will move to approval of the minutes of our meeting of July 25th, 2018, which was a regular meeting, and the minutes of our September 4, 2018 special meeting. If I get a motion, Trustee Benito makes that motion, seconded by Trustee Colbrook. If I get a vote on first the July 25th, 2018 regular meeting minutes, all those in favor? Unanimously approved. The September 4th special meeting, all those in favor? Unanimously approved. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll now move to the consent calendar. 1 through 28, yes, sir. Anybody need any further discussion on any of those items? Or do we have a motion to move those items? Trustee Macrinos makes a motion to approve items 1 through 28 on the consent calendar. Seconded. Trustee Macrinos makes that motion. Seconded, all those in favor of approving the items on 1 through 28 of the consent calendar, raise your hand. All in favor. Oh, sorry, I didn't see him, thank you. Okay, so item 29, we're not voting on anything. And 30, we are separately voting on.
Is it the board's intention to authorize you to execute the proposed agreement with Winchester University Hospital containing substantially terms as you described before?
Yes, subject to completion of the start date and the housing, place of housing for the ambulance.
Is there a motion to that effect? Moved by trustee Heyer, seconded by trustee Menudo. Any discussion on the motion?
Those in favor? Unanimously approved. Terrific. Thank you. Okay, now we will move to the portion of the meeting. So we have comments on general items. Yes, sir. Come on up. Now's the time. We generally have people say where they live, their name, and we limit to 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Okay.
Rosario Palante at 31 Cathedral Avenue. I purchased the house a year. I'm still fixing it up. Through the short time that I'm here, I've witnessed numerous accidents in the corner of Cathedral and Fort. I did notice that the village or the county installed a traffic light on Cathedral and 30, I believe, and I thank the board or the decision makers for that. However, I do believe that Cathedral Avenue.
Mr. Traffic Commissioner.
Yes, thank you, traffic commission. I do think.
And it took about 2 years.
Yeah. However, I do believe we need to do more. I've witnessed numerous accidents on the corner of Cathedral and Fort. Just yesterday, a minivan got clipped. Not sure how the process works, if it's a county level issue, if it's a village level issue, but it's an issue that needs to get addressed. Lives are at stake. There's too much traffic zooming down Cathedral Avenue. Either we need to put speed bumps, more traffic lights, potentially make it to a 1 lane going either way, maybe some bike lanes. We need to be creative with the issues because it just can't be going on like this. And now my kids' life is at stake because I see the accidents occurring. It's there. I'm sure the police department knows about it. I'm sure the board knows about it, and I implore the board to do something more. Thank you. Is there Q&A?
And you like the idea of speed cameras, right?
Speed cameras, yes, might work.
Thank you very much. You're good.
I am for anything that slows down traffic, be it speed cameras, speed bumps.
Well, I would suggest that go to the next traffic commission meeting.
Well, actually, what you should do is, go ahead, what you should do,
Sorry.
go to CPOA.
Yes, I was just informed.
It's a hot issue. I'm on Rockaway.
I can only tell you,
It's horrible.
It is.
it is horrible, but I will also tell you,
It's also.
it's everywhere. Okay, I live near Nassau Boulevard in Stewart, which has 4-way lights. There are cars in the yards of the corner properties. You can ask the fire department or the police department. And we have 4-way street lights, full-blown street lights. Trustee Goldberg lives closer to, New Hyde Park and Stewart. It's the same thing. Do not think that some traffic light is going to prevent every accident or solve every problem.
I do believe that if resources are spent on being creative, maybe not traffic lights in every corner, but maybe certain landscaping, make it, again, maybe 1 lane going both ways. There's studies that could be done. I don't think it's an issue that needs to be put to the side just because you might think it's useless to put traffic lights in every corner. I think if we are creative and we do studies.
Let's be clear. We don't think it's a waste, and we're not punting either. The problem in particular with Cathedral is it's a county road, so we can't tell them we only want 1 lane. Believe me, I would love the same treatment on Rockaway. On Rockaway, it's literally a speedway. That won't alleviate things. I mean, we're all joking about the speed cameras and people moan and groan about it, but I do believe it will help, especially the temporary ones that we can pick up and move around. I think that's the threat of financial repercussions from speeding is probably the last thing we have left. Because a stop sign, people blow stop signs. You know, I have 4 kids on the block, just like you, okay? It's even worse, they ride their bikes. I'm at bike level now. It's annoying, okay? It's scary. Every time we hear a brakes jam, my wife and I go, is Hayden home? You know, like we feel your pain. So it's not that we're here just saying, oh yeah, it's never gonna change, to get used to it. It is a difficult situation. What the mayor's referring to is, you know, we've been reaching out for help from Camp Hannon, from Ed Rod's office for the speed cameras. Everyone you know, tell them to send them an email. We would like to have the speed cameras as soon as we can. I do believe that's our last hope, because we can pick them up and we can move them around. Anything permanent these days is kind of a waste.
Pick any major street, Washington, Clinton.
You know,
Stewart,
one thing,
Park Road, take any street, it's the same. People don't pay attention.
The other good effect is, so we all know that it's a logarithm that sends the cars through our village, right? So it's Waze, it's all those other things. If Waze takes into account if there are penalties accrued by cars that go through a certain village. So if we can get them on the speed cameras, they start taking that into account. Maybe they send them another way. Maybe they send them around Garden City. I mean, I know the knee-jerk reactions to moan and groan about the cameras, but I really do think that it's our last hope to really make a dent in the speeding, which is off the charts in the whole town.
okay, let me just say one thing. Let me say that I do know, by interacting with the people in Nassau County, in the Department of Public Works, and the traffic section, that there is a lot of research, a lot of people in various places in our area, we are really saturated with traffic. And therefore, they do research, they branch out, and they find solutions that, you know, lay people are not going to find. So I would suggest that as a possible next step, that we would connect. There's a commission in the traffic division over in Nassau County that has to approve every light that goes on those streets, their streets and so forth. They have research resources. And I think, frankly, that we should contact them, and that we should ask them to come and send speakers, and that we should ask them to come and stand out in that whole area of the grid, because when you may constrict something in one area of the grid, it pops out on another. That's not solving anything really, but at least it calms residents down and makes them feel that you do care, you're paying attention to them. So that's what I would suggest. If we could try to reach out to Nassau County, there's a young man there, his name is, I think it's R.E.A. Lemberger. And he does do a lot of research, and he speaks often about these topics in addition to his regular job. So I'm thinking of trying to do something like that.
I think that's a great idea,
Yeah.
and anything I can do on my part on the county level, I will try to do as well.
Write letters for speed.
I just want to add one more thing. We had speed cameras here. We placed one around the high school on Rockaway going through there, and it was very successful, because we had numerous accidents. We had students that were run over, we had staff that was run over, we had a crossing guard run over. So speed cameras did work there, and being able to move them from place to place to place would be an extra bonus for us. So speed cameras work. That was an area that was very successful in slowing down traffic significantly.
I do believe that these are not mutually exclusive issues. I think we could do both speed cameras and still investigate a more comprehensive analysis on traffic patterns.
If I could just mention to you, being new to the village, I'm going to suggest the procedure that you would follow. The first thing I would do is I would tell you to go to the next POA meeting. The next thing about it is what you want to do is traffic met tonight, so the next time we'll meet again will be in 2 months. They meet every other month, they'll meet in November. So what you want to do is you want to basically draft a letter stating your case of why you feel this is good. To add to your strength, what I would also do is I would also petition or get together with your neighbors and see if you have anybody else who also has strong feelings like that. You submit it to the traffic department, and then they need to put it on their agenda for November.
Well,
Across from you, the Hawkeyes is where the car ended up yesterday on his lawn. He's extremely active for the POA, sourcing these issues, so.
Yeah, great.
You know, the other sad part of that is that those children, my son lives on Fourth, just tucked in as to where that accident occurs. Those kids don't get school buses to school.
No.
So, and it's too really hot and dangerous out there on those roads. So my daughter-in-law is constantly driving her children to school, the high school, the middle school, and so forth. So it's a tough one.
And I do believe that connects with the whole traffic issue. If we make Garden City more walkable, where children do feel safe walking to school, there'll be less cars on the road, less accidents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir, hold on. Mr. Stidham?
Yeah. Leo Stimler, Huntington Road. I'd like to thank the fire department for the remembrance ceremony on September 11th. Thank you very much. I noticed in the office cat in the Garden City News, the column, it said that the police were enforcing speed limits at the schools. I think it was the high school, but I'm not certain. And I hope that comes again. I hope you do it again. My last item is I'm reading that same office cat column. It's really upsetting to read the number of people who are driving in our village without insurance, have multiple suspensions, and multiple tickets for speeding and other things. And I just don't understand why they're back on the road. So I would ask the trustees, when you speak with Senator Hannan or Assemblyman Ra, I hope you'll ask them to do something about making the laws tougher so that people, I think it's outrageous that people with multiple license suspensions are still on the road. It doesn't make any sense to me, and it's very upsetting. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Simone, come on up.
Good evening, everybody.
Just remember, you all live by a 4-minute rule, so thank you.
4-minute rules. I need 4 hours, considering how lost everybody is. I mean, going back decades, what have I been speaking about? Housing. You keep putting up more and more housing. And then what happens, you get more and more housing, you get more and more traffic, okay? And again and again and again, the village caves in, giving up that green space for more housing. Okay, so, you know, it's like, stupid. What are you talking about? Okay, that's one thing. You can't keep building housing, you know, and expect traffic to diminish. It don't work that way. The more housing, the more people, the more traffic, okay? And again, the village caves in again and again and again. Okay, that's one thing. Mention something about ambulances. I just made some notes here. What about Uber? Uber, you know, hey, you need an ambulance, get Uber, it's cheaper. Anyway, okay. I come up with the, okay, we all heard of dinosaurs, right? Now, dinosaurs existed for millions and millions, hundreds of millions of years. Dinosaurs, that's how long they lived, hundreds of millions of years. Okay, so I'm coming up with a plan, a 1,000,000-year plan. Going, the trends, the directions that we're all going, where will we be in 1,000,000 years? The population, the water, the pollution, 1,000,000 years. That's how to plan, 1,000,000 years. Okay? I'm here tonight mostly to oust the current president of the Chamber of Commerce, Dennis Donnelly. This guy has got to go. Okay? I attend the promenade, the events on Friday night. Last Friday night, that was the kicker. Okay? Cotton candy being served to children? Are you out of your minds? Dogs everywhere? Dogs. I mean, the dogs are bigger than the little children running around. If I had a little child, I mean, I would not want a dog, you know, it would be my child. Okay? Face painting? Are you out of your minds? These adorable, beautiful little children, you're painting their face and you're paying for it? you out of your minds? And then these brilliant children, you're gonna entertain them with twisting up balloons? Are you out of your minds? And the bands. What happened to rock and roll? The bands stink. Billy Joel and all this other stupid stuff that they play. Whatever happened to rock and roll? You get it for free. Guys just want like a little exposure. Why are you paying for it when it's available for free? And you're paying for face painting? And you're paying for balloon twisting? And you're paying for cotton candy for children? Are you out of your minds?
Time's up,
What do you mean my time's up? I just,
We have 4 minutes.
I wanted an hour.
Nobody gets an hour.
I just got started.
We have another meeting October 4th. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, trustee, mayor.
Just pull it off there.
Yeah, just, it's Maureen Delacono, 105 New Hyde Park Road. I just wanted to address the turkey trot this year. I was glad to see it on the agenda and that you have passed for them to have their 42nd annual turkey trot. I can say it's going to be the 10th year for me this year to run it, and it's always a very exciting day, and it's always very lovely and fun. Everybody's just overwhelmed with, oh, I got to finish the 5 miles, and everything. It's very exciting. But I am concerned this year because we have the situation with St. Paul's there, and the building is looking very neglected and abandoned. And if you might recall, last year there were 7,000 people there, over 4,000 running the 5 mile. We had there were, I believe it was close to 3,000 that ran the 1 1/4 mile, which is enough of a feat in itself for some people, and it was adults and kids. But I'm concerned about St. Paul's and the look of it. I don't want the village to be put in a bad light with the visitors that are coming here from not only different parts of Long Island, but also different states and different countries. It gets coverage with News 12. So it is a concerning thing, and I wanted to appeal to the trustees tonight to do something to improve at least the visible areas during the race of St. Paul's building. I know it's about 2 months away. Maybe there's something that can be done to at least improve that look. I can tell you that people really do notice the grounds. It's a beautiful spot there with the St. Paul's complex with all those fields. A couple of years ago, I was standing out there on Stewart Avenue waiting for we were doing the national anthem, and I noticed the people around me. It was during Mayor Watrous' term when the village had the flagpole painted, and I noticed people were looking up during the Pledge of Allegiance, during the national anthem, and they were saying, "Oh, look at the flag this year. It looks bright. I mean, something's different. Something must have gone on. It really looks great." And of course, I knew that the flagpole had just been painted. So I think that people do notice, and I would not like Garden City to be put in any kind of a negative light with all the visitors who will be here. So I'm just asking you, appealing to you tonight, to see if we can do something to spruce it up in some way before the turkey trot. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Steve Maloney, Meadow Street. 2 things. I did find out that Cherry Valley Apartments, it's $35 a month for a spot, just for your reference. But what? Oh. The non-resident railroad parking, I know I've mentioned this for a couple of years now. You pay $6 a day at Mineola, which is about $1,200 a year. And I just don't think the non-resident parking, and based on the fact that they're camping outside to get this spot, I don't think you're charging enough. I'm not saying to charge $1,000, but if it was $600, it's half as much as you're going to get at Mineola. You know, residents pay $150 or $175. We're paying resident taxes. This is our village. our parking feels, that's why it's that price. But for people to be camped out outside, if they could resell it, they'd be reselling it for $800. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a couple, I just.
We do once. Yes, sir.
Zimmer Smith, Pine Street. A number of months ago, I brought the trustees' attention to the white lot, the fact that I think landscaping may dramatically improve its appearance, especially along the railroad tracks. I'd like to extend that over, so to speak, to 7S lot, which there's an enormous amount of traffic, high visibility, both from residents and from visitors. And the bush line and the fence along that is starting to get very shabby. It reflects poor on the village. I think we have a small amount of money so that we get back in shape. Project which Bill Dunn and I will be launching soon, just to alert you, but I will be speaking to you on it, is a look at the architects that in effect designed homes, in some cases made their careers based on the homes that were designed here. One of them, Oliver Jaden, has been receiving some press recently, very positive press. There was a very good seminar given on how this weekend. She designed over 400 homes in Garden City. Some of them are outstanding, most of them are. But we really don't have our hands around what she did do, so that's a project underway. But also mention that an offshoot of that will be that many other architects that went on to very important roles in the history of American architecture design buildings, usually early in their careers within Garden City, especially in the States and the Central. Again, we hope to gain a database on this. I think it's information that should be preserved. One question, rhetorical in a way, aside from a number of months ago, I came across a survey crew taking measurements at the Nassau Boulevard station. It is apparent that they're considering paving that lot. The asphalt portions of it, I can't comment on them, but the brick portion of the Nassau Boulevard field adds a charm to that particular station, I think, the village as a whole. So I would go with caution, in my opinion, for the village to pave over that or to damage it in any way. Only a small portion of the overall lot there, but that's only.
Thank you. And we are, Mr. Smith, we are well aware of the brick parking lot, and we are also well aware of how much that would cost. We've gotten quotes. Okay, anything else? No? No, we already went. We're now going to move to a work session.
I'm here.
Oh, great. Come on up. It's not the greatest room for a, I'm sorry. No, I know.
Subscribe to your YouTube channel. Oh, thank you. The ones from Hempstead are a lot more interesting, right?
Oh, yeah, they're a lot wilder. Well, yeah, you have Floral Park, and that's okay. But the Hempstead is dysfunctional.
What do you think about this one? Garden City is all right. Also
Well, it's in, it's better than like every other municipality, they have issues, but it's as far as
way they conduct themselves is much more professional. You know, Hempstead's sort of like they blatantly violate the laws, and you tell them, and they still hear. They get a little bit more concerned for that. But yeah, I'm just I'm saying they're always on the line, but they don't like just go over the line recklessly. Like Hempstead, forget about Hempstead. Hempstead is like they passed, was it on their face? You don't have to even be a lawyer. They did it unconstitutional. They're illegal. They violate state law. They violate federal law. They end up in court. They end up in court. We have like. I printed out all the lawsuits. We have between federal and state, it's close to 100 lawsuits. And we're spending $2 million a year on average on litigation.
Thanks, now it's just going straight for the lawyers.
These lawyers, it's horrible. It's like, it's just like, you look at it and you're like, what are you doing? I says, it's not like, you could tell by the way they act. You know, like I can understand if me and you have a dispute and we have legitimate, I'm really concerned about what I'm saying, and we really disagree. You could see that they know they do because they won't answer any questions. Like you say, you give me the kind did you research this before you cast it? And they go, we feel comfortable. So did you research it? Yeah, they do some work sessions.
They seem more professional.
They're definitely more professional. Anything's
Do
more
they,
professional.
yes, like I want to know, would they like actually consider say,
In Hempstead? Oh, I think from what I can tell, the work session that I sat in earlier this year when they were continuing the streetscapes, which was pretty interesting. I learned a lot about concrete paving.
Yeah, I missed that. I should have.
And that was really interesting. But there was residents, businesses, property owners, and they came on their own. And it was a very civil conversation. People disagreed, but it's on my channel. I forget what day it was. I have everything. You don't have to go to my channel to just make it easy. If you just go to justfactsmedia.com and you go to the menu item that says meetings, they're all in playlists. They're in a playlist.
I know I watched that episode once.
They're in a playlist.
I tried watching Go to City, it was just really fun.
It is dry.
But I'm definitely going to look up for that one because that's what I'm interested in. Thank you for the
Okay, take your seats.
Yes, thank you. We have Dev Patrick here. He's the founder and CEO of two related companies. I'll just call it Sports Facilities Advisory and Management. They are nationally recognized, if not internationally recognized. They create, build, operate, run sports-related facilities, which are more than sports. Dev's company is one of the groups we're speaking about to get some expertise and information. But we asked them to come and talk to us and give us some more background and info and things they could provide to the board and the village as we start down this the road of developing our concept. So,
That's great.
thanks
Thank you,
for
Mayor.
coming.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes, ma'am?
Sir, because it's a work session, are there no questions?
Yeah, no questions.
That was my question.
But you were on the record, Commissioner, so you can have it.
All right, so glad to be here. I'm going to talk to you about our process for evaluating sport and recreation facilities. In just the last month, as an example of clients who hired us, the Mayo Clinic, the Center for Disease Control, the Aspen Institute, the Florida Recreation and Parks Association has just hired us to create online economic impact and social impact and property values calculators for every park in the state of Florida. Pure Michigan has just hired us to create their sports tourism economic impact calculators. That is in the last 6 weeks. We are easily the largest and sort of leading firm, but we're also the most conservative. And the reason we have succeeded this long, 15 years in this field, and the reason we moved into the management of operations is because two things. One, we were asked to by the United States Park Service for the Aviator Sports Complex in Brooklyn, New York, when we did a turnaround for them in 2006. We very successfully turned that facility around for the Park Service and a private developer. That was because they got an analysis from us that said it's just not being run in the right way, it's not taking advantage of the opportunities, it's organized improperly, there's too much expense here, etc. They basically shoved that piece of paper, that there's documents across the table, so we'll make it so. We walked out, we were in the management business in 2006. But if you were in the management business for facilities like this, you're going to live and die by the financial forecasts and models that you put together 2 and 3 and 4 years prior. So in places like the city of Myrtle Beach, the third largest tourism destination in the world, or in America, we manage the Myrtle Beach Sports Facility. We forecasted, as an example, $7 million in first year spend in the community. Our achievement was 31. At Rocky Top Sports World in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, we forecasted $8 million. We've done now $140 million in that facility. We're at about 14 years into our forecast. We're 4 years into the operation. And that story is consistent. That's because we're super conservative in our forecasts, which is not particularly popular when a group's gotten hold of an idea and they're in love with it, and we come back and say, well, let me tell you a little bit of the reality of what this is going to either cost, or how it's going to operate, or what subsidies are required. So our focus is around being honest, truthful, conservative, and accountable. All right? We'll just go through a few slides here. Our mission is to improve the health and the economic vitality of the communities we serve. We live this mission, and by just some of the clients that you've heard us talk about, and I'll talk about some of our material, you can get a sense for, I think, how seriously we're taken in that regard. The reason that's our mission is because kids and people who are active in our society have better outcomes than those who are inactive. When we defunded school sport in No Child Left Behind, this isn't a political conversation at all. The bill had a lot of really good things in it in terms of its focus. But when we defunded school sports, we saw a rapid increase in childhood diabetes because we reduced activity levels so significantly. There are other outcomes. If you look at this, kids who are active are 1/10 as likely to be obese, they have 40% higher test scores, they have less smoking, drug, risky behavior, 15% is likely to go to college, 15% more likely, and on and on. What we've done in our society in sport is we've created such a competitive environment without enough access for kids at the earliest age to get very basic competence. If you're not having fun in sport, and if you don't feel good about sport, you don't stay in sport. And today, believe it or not, in a community like yours, you would think that every kid is playing sport. But on a national scale, we've seen dramatic declines in sports participation rates. So in other communities who don't have as active or don't have quite the assets that you do, this is a real issue. And you'll see that. I've been on HBO Real Sports a few times. I'm going to do it again in November, and we're going to really talk about that disparity. You're ahead of that game right now. You really are. Let's continue to go if we can. I say you're ahead of that game because just the facilities that you have, the assets you have, and the programming you're offering is ahead of what most communities in America are able to do. Looks like there's something going on with the PowerPoint. Okay, so I'll tell you this. We founded in 2003. We're a 300-person firm. We're hiring 50 people right now. We'll be 700 people next year. That's because on a national scale, communities like yours have discovered that their sport and recreation assets are important to their home values, they're important to their community, they're important to keeping people engaged, they're important to their crime rates, and the concept that you have and that I've been presented with, I'll say this at this point, I like a lot about it, but I'm not certain how it works for you because there's a financial forecast and model that has to be built that has to then be paired with the community's capacity to both deliver on that financial forecast and to handle it. It has to be paired with whether or not private sector money can come into the project at all, and that's a very limited number of projects that will attract real private sector dollars. And so as I saw your plans, I thought fantastic concept in general, a lot of great components to it, But when you go to get it financed, you're gonna need a financial forecast, a true and accurate financial model. That's what we've proposed to present to you. Let's see if we can get this up. If not, I've got plenty of pretty pictures for you. We'll have, as an example, we'll have 40 to 50 inbound calls in a week to our office. Of those, 2 will get a proposal. Of those, 1 in 10 will get a feasibility yes. Does that make sense? Now, that's to the client's original concept. What we do in the first phase is right-size that concept to the market demand, to the market opportunity, to the budget of that community, and so that we can then produce a financial forecast and a model that's right-sized. Sometimes those right-sized models are phased, right? Sometimes you can't come out of the gates in year 1 with everything you want, but the master plan might call for multiple phases, and so those are the kinds of things we'll look at. These are institutional grade financial forecasts, so down to the rolls of toilet paper, the number of people that will be in the facility, the amount of food and beverage that will be sold, what the parking requirements are. Every single detail you might ask me about will be in those models, be well researched, and it will be researched based on the behavior, the consumer behavior in other marketplaces adjusted for your market. We've developed a modeling system for that. Our understanding of what you want is primarily community driven, with the opportunity to deliver on some of the events. You have your road race that brings 7,000 people in the community. These are not the kinds of events that bring 7,000 people in the community. These are events that bring a good demographic of family into the community to spend 2 and 3 days on a weekend or when school's out. They can be senior games, they can be some of those kinds of things. And those kinds of events can be used to offset some of the operating expenses of a facility when you're trying to give as much as you can to your local community. So we'll begin with understanding your definitions of success if you engage us. We'll want to hear that from a lot of different folks. We'll have stakeholder meetings. There's complexity in community recreation and sport in every community. There's long entrenched groups, and there's groups that want X and groups that want Y. You have people in the community that'll ask you, why on earth do you think about hockey? And you have people in the community say, well, we need more tennis. We're going to use analysis to figure out and identify exactly what that program plan might be. And then we're going to look at financeability. So if there are specific partners you can come to the table. We are a founding member of the Aspen Institute Project Play 2020. You can look up Project Play 2020 and you'll see us with 19 other organizations. They're Nike, Target, Dick's, the NHL, the NBA, Major League Baseball. All of these organizations will have an interest in projects that we decide to take on. All of them will ask how they might be able to help in some way, whether it's branding or if you have a major private sector partner who comes to the table with something, things that were not once feasible can start to look like they're feasible, right? So we'll do all of that work as we come to you with that final financial forecast. The thing that you're missing right now is just pretty pictures. You're missing the kinds of facilities and assets that we've done. Over $10 billion in developments since we founded the organization. We currently have about $500 million coming out of the ground in various communities around the country. We have about $300 million in projects that are out to finance. And then we, as I said, in this last year of 120 studies, just a very few really make it through. At this point, we've done enough analysis on your community to know that you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to grow significantly, and your site is well suited to do something special. I understand you have preservation concerns. I understand you have questions about exactly what the program plan should be. We'll help you with all of those things. We deal with them in every community you might imagine. We can go through, just in terms of our team, we're a real company. I'll put it that way. If you come to our offices in Clearwater, Florida, you're going to see about 40 people. Out in the field in our various offices and markets and facilities, there's another 300 plus. So in-house legal, in-house business analysts, in-house operations, in-house procurement, everything that you might imagine to make our projects the best in the country. Those we're involved in. It's freezing. It's just a massive file, so I think my system is better suited to it. But you can go to our website, sportadvisory.com. Obviously, you've sort of vetted us, and you can take a look at the company that we keep in terms of the projects that we're working on. So that's what we do. The work that we are proposing and have proposed for you is first and foremost to do a market opportunity report, a feasibility study that'll come back with an estimated construction and startup costs for the program plan that we believe is right for you. If that's, I'm going to make this up, if that's some lights on your current fields, that's what we're going to come back to you with. If it is the full-blown concept that you have, or some variation of it, we'll come back to you with that. It'll be driven by first your definitions of success, your financing capacity, the political will, and then what you want in terms of ongoing operating reality, okay? That's the first phase. We would deliver to you that feasibility and market opportunity report, and then if you as a client were to agree to that, if you were to engage us, we would then move into producing an institutional grade financial forecast on that model. So first it's, here's what the data is saying, and here's how big and what you should do, square footages of everything, entryways, and number of restrooms, every detail, number of parking spaces, how much traffic we expect the facility to have. That'll all be answered in that market opportunity report. The next phase will be, okay, well, how's that cash flow? What's that really mean for us from a budget perspective? We live in the public sector, so we're going to do that in great detail and in a very conservative way. We've yet to have a facility open that hasn't outperformed its forecast. And so that's what I think we're here to do. Beyond that, if we can add value in the development cycle, typically all of that goes out to RFP. When you get to that point, it needs to, you're talking about a major development, and you probably have people in the community who would have an interest in that, and there's plenty of reason to keep as much of it in your own community as possible. What we are is fantastic project managers. We're fantastic advisors through the development process, but all of that will go out, in that. We can bring capital sources to the table, we can bring grants to the table, but again, that's a phase that you put out to RFP, and we're typically then partnered with local groups that you've been involved with for years, architects and engineers and other folks. We don't kick them to the curb. We're directed by our clients to build a team the way they want us to, and provided that the skill is there, we're happy to do that. So that's a little bit about us. Let me pause and see if I can take some questions, and hopefully that's helpful background.
I have a couple questions. I realize every project is different before I ask this question.
Sure.
But approximately, what length of time would it be to do a feasibility study? And then if in the event you get to that point, then with a financial forecast? So I'm just trying to get an understanding of the timeframes.
Yeah, so we start all new projects on a Monday. So let's just say that our proposal converts to contract, and a month from now, you sign a contract on a Thursday. On Monday, your project will be announced in our offices in Clearwater. Your team is assigned. Because I'm personally been involved at this stage, just have had a number of conversations and have looked at your analysis, I'll remain as your principal in charge. I'll be the senior most person on your team.
You're the point person.
My COO will be your actual point person. But I'll be here for any critical meetings, and when it comes time for sort of the rubber hits the road or anything like that, I'll be directly involved. I'll see everything. I'm involved in about 5 projects a year directly. I really serve as the CEO of our company. And I'm very involved when we get to financing and nitty-gritty. From that Monday forward, we would schedule a site visit and begin to schedule stakeholder interviews and that sort of thing. We're probably in market 3 or 4 weeks later, okay? We turn the market opportunity, and with all of this can be time on paper, so we turn that market opportunity report around in another 2 to 3 weeks, okay? So let's say we're 6, 7, 8 weeks out from the time of that contract signing to the time we deliver that market opportunity report. If you say, go, we agree, and most of this, there's so much transparency in this that there's not a lot of surprise. By the time the group that we're reporting up to sees this, we've had a lot of discussion. You generally know what's coming. We deliver that, and in most cases, you'll say, great, go forward. Unless we've said, you got a real big roadblock here, or, I know you think it's good for you, but you're gonna lose $800,000 a year doing this, or whatever that might be. I don't think in your current configuration you have that challenge. If you wanted to build a huge natatorium swimming complex, you would probably have that challenge. I might tell you, why don't we just do a small market opportunity report and give some reaction, because they eat so much cash. Then that next phase, that performance phase, is probably another 4 to 6, maybe 8 weeks at most. So all in, you're somewhere between, you're between 12 and 16 weeks.
Okay. So second question I have is that are you currently working with or have worked with any communities either on Long Island or in New York?
Yes. In Southampton right now, we're working on a philanthropic project. That's a community recreation center and pool. It will eat cash like all pools do, but a great project and one that community needs, just a community recreation center. And then over the years, we've had 2,000 clients, so we have been everywhere. approach you with a list of all the markets we've ever worked in. But we're everywhere. We're in Saudi Arabia today, and we probably have
With all due
6
respect,
projects in Europe.
I really don't care what happens to Saudi Arabia.
I will try.
Not that, no disrespect to Saudi Arabia, but like I said, if
He
we're
needs
sitting
that
here.
because he's against the electric.
Sure, totally.
The Saudis,
Well,
the oil.
I do get funding directly, but I don't get it. So, like I said, I care about Garden City and Emo.
Yeah, no, I just mean that as an illustration. I think we've looked at markets that are so complex, so our ability to look at your market, I think, is relatively
That's my
solid.
question. You're talking about a market report. How do you build that report? You mentioned stakeholder meetings. What else goes into that report? And what else have you seen from that?
So the stakeholder meetings and the meetings that we have with you help to set the direction, the purpose, the mission, the core value propositions, what it is that defines success. So if we're in Myrtle Beach, defining success is hotel rooms, period. They couldn't care less in that particular facility about engaging locals because they have other parks for that. It's really a convention center product. In your case, the definitions of success from those stakeholder interviews are going to guide us in terms of what top priorities are. And that affects the program plan. You have a smaller food concessions environment in a local program than you do in a tourism. You don't necessarily have the same retail in a tourism-focused facility, and you don't necessarily build as much inventory in a local facility as you would for a large tournament-style facility. But beyond that, we've developed a modeling system. This is why folks like Aspen and CDC and other people engage us in the Mayo Clinic. We've developed a modeling system. This is what Aviator Sports Complex utilized with us, where we develop rings of market demographic rings. So within 5 minutes, within 10 minutes, within 15 minutes, and within those we draw heat maps that show us sports participation rates, age and demographic, income, household spending on disposable income, spending on sporting equipment, spending on recreation, spending on travel. And that data helps us to paint a picture for who's going to engage in the facility, plus your current utilization, your current inventory. We're going to look at all that. But those maps will tell us who's going to come to what types of programming. So I'll give you an example. Every program is different. In fitness, the drive time for a fitness center, for the majority of its users, is 9 to 15 minutes from the facility. Most people live within 15 minutes of the place they work out on a regular basis, right? In soccer, people will drive somewhere between 20 and 50% of the time they're going to spend at the field. So if you're going to spend an hour in the field, you're not going to drive more than about 30 minutes. Well, drive time is much more important than miles, especially here, right? Because we're going to look at drive times. And so, here, your drive times will be just a little extended because people are used to it. But we've done that for every single sport, and so and for the length of use. And once we start building out the model, the two start talking to one another. So you say, okay, well, if we can keep them here longer, you're going to end up with a wider trade area, if you will. And then for tournaments and events, same thing. Within those maps, we look at all the competition, all the current offerings. We look at your current offerings, what's unnecessary or what can be consolidated, and then we come back to you with that, both program plan and that financial plan.
You did the same model for aviation, for Benfield?
Yeah, I mean, it was 2006, so we have a mantra called better every time. We never deliver a product that isn't better every time. But it was that modeling product that they desired. When they called us, they said, hey, we've heard good things about it. This was, I started in 2003. But by the time they got to us in late 2005 and hired us, they learned about our modeling system and seen how we were able to predict the future in terms of use, and that's what they wanted us to do.
Now that it's in operation, was your model correct?
Yeah, well, we forecasted that they would top out about $9 million in top line revenue, and they're at 14.5 today. So, and that's our job. Our job is to treat it like a banker. At the end of the day, the people we are equally loyal to are financing sources. We want to take projects to financing sources that are so slam dunk that they say we got to do this project, and we don't want to fight over that. And we do it so that, let me add the other layer to this market research. There's your research, and then there's reality. Anybody can put a number in and say, we got so many kids, so you should go and do this. We compare our financial forecast and model in your facility against all the other operations that we forecasted in real time. So you could say to us, okay, show me where this is happening, and we'd be able to show you. We'd show you that it's happening twice as well as we forecasted for you, if that makes sense. Very conservative. If you talk to our references, 2,000 references, go online, you can't find a complaint about us. If you talk to the references I just talked to you about, we'd be happy to furnish you with the names of those folks. They'll talk to you from the Mayo, from the, so very reliable, very conservative. Again, we're not everybody's friend. We don't come here to tell you that you should do the thing that you dreamed of. We come here to analyze for you how that thing you dreamed of is going to perform. So you
Is
can
that
decide.
software proprietary? You guys developed that, or is this something you modified, or?
No, we developed it. It's our system. That's right. It uses a combination of things like the Sport and Fitness Industry Association has specific data sets on sports participation rates or on what trends are going on. So we use that trend analysis and data, but everything is ours, 100%.
Now, for that project in aviation, where are the people coming from that use the facility? Because here at St. Paul's, which is Garden City residents, where do the people come from?
It depends on the sport. I mean, if you go in, there's Eastern European soccer happening tonight, and there'll be fights in about 15 minutes. There's a Jamaican reggae festival that happens there. There are tournaments and events. Aviator draws from a larger total population. Yeah, the comparison is simply that it happens to be here in the region, and some of you might know it. It's not a comparison in terms of performance. I don't believe we would come back to you with a facility that's going to top line at $9 million. I can assure you we won't. We would have to put in family entertainment center, and a bar and a restaurant, and do corporate events, and do field trips, and all kinds of other things that Aviator does. That when we sit down and interview and meet with you, you're not going to want that much activity, and you're not going to want that much disruption for your citizens. You know, we live in the Parks and Recs world for a lot of our life. So.
Questions, thoughts? What would be the, so when you do the community,
The stakeholder meetings,
yeah,
etc.
what is that, how do you do it?
Yeah, so we start with you will form, or we would ask that you form some sort of a committee that we report into. And then, 4 to 6 people. And they'll represent probably some folks here, someone from Parks and Recs, a collection of folks. We need 1 or 2 of those folks to be able to point us in the direction of the various organizations, sporting organizations. And so in a series of meetings, we'll come in.
We have a commission of cultural and recreation affairs.
Yeah,
7 people, done.
This won't be difficult. Emails will go out. We'll invite people to stakeholder meetings. We'll have them in a series of sessions. We'll have the soccer people together. We'll have the lacrosse people together. We'll have basketball. We'll have softball. We'll have girls softball. Every sport that might be conceived in hockey. We'll do all of the analysis on whatever it is that after we've met with you seems like it ought to stay in, right? And as much as you want us to. We want to know what's happening in sport, and it is hyper localized. You get into a community, okay, well, that's the dominant group, right? And they're going to say, well, we want this much inventory. So we need to, then we start building out the inventory. We're going to give you a utilization analysis in our forecast, because one of the things that happens in these forecasts that we've seen is people double count. So you get this many fields, this many hours, and they don't realize that they haven't scheduled the space. So they put soccer on top of lacrosse on a field and tell you that's what the market opportunity is. That's not reality. Reality is that there are only so many hours that there's an inventory, right? So that's how we're going to respond to that. And we'll schedule all of those meetings. So there'll be very little to do from your side other than can you disseminate this email and can you give us a list of who we need to reach out to, and then they start the invitations.
If you take into account the competitive landscape, what other facilities are available, what other available?
Absolutely, we have to. Not only the competitive landscape, but what could you be doing with your current assets, right? If you don't have to build something, you should not build it. In Clearwater, Florida, we should not be building a big sports facility. We should be having stand-up paddleboard and sailing races and fishing races and take advantage of the natural assets that we have. You have something unique in that you have an existing facility that's eating cash. St. Paul's is eating cash in that it's got ongoing expense to it, and you're trying to convert that space that's already active, already known, already great fields, already great amenities into something that's more than what it is. That's a different thing than most of our projects, which is ground-up construction. You also have a very vibrant Parks and Recreation collection of assets. And as much as you may be used to them, as we toured today, I can tell you that by comparison to most communities in America, there's some really great facilities. So we'll be looking at how they might be utilized as well and offer recommendations there. And we're often advisors to Parks and Rec departments without needing to manage a thing for them. And I'm certainly going to uncover some opportunities for you in that phase as well. So, because we're going to end up having to get to what's the organizational structure? How does this thing operate? How does it play in the same sandbox with Parks and Recs? What should be, what should be at this site and that site? It's a pretty complex bowl of soup, but I think our systems do a good job of whittling that down into reality and then showing where this is already happening in other places. And the competition analysis is a huge part of that. So we're going to visit all the facilities that are directly in the region. Most of them we have good data on already. We will end up probably looking at 60 or 70 offerings in the region. And then for things like tournaments, you have to go further out. Tournaments that produce overnight hotel stays. You've got some new limited services hotels that are going to come into the marketplace. The Marriott Residence Inn and others. That's the kind of product that tournament users want. They're not going to spend $189, $200, $300 a night. So we'll look at the tournament and the available inventory of events in the region and guarantee it'll be more than you will want to host, right? And so then we'll slot in an inventory that is aligned with your definitions of success, which may be to offset some of your expenses and bring some new money into the community from outside, but not dominate the facility, because that wouldn't be I don't think it'd be in your best interest given what I've heard about your objectives.
Just talk about the numbers quickly. How do you get access to that information, right? Is that information that's readily available? Do you model it? Do you base it on some guesstimate? And how do you, obviously revenues are an important part of this, right?
The difference between us and us, we've had 50 million visits in our facilities in the last 3 years. We know how these facilities operate, and they are everything you might imagine. Zipline adventure courses, Ninja Warrior facilities, basketball facilities, soccer and lacrosse and football, everything you might imagine and all. So the first begins with, we just know how facilities operate. Then we know how consumers in a marketplace operate. And when you put our modeling together with that, you get very accurate, very conservative forecasts, which is what you need. The worst thing to happen is you sell the dream and then you have to service the nightmare, right? Whether that's you doing it yourself, your Parks and Recreation, or others involved, everybody wants to say at the end of month one, we're at a pace. At grand opening of whatever it is, we're at a pace. That's true in all of our facilities. We're going to open the Rocky Mountain Event Center in a few weeks. If you go to HBO Real Sports and put my name in, you can watch that project. That project, we forecasted, call it 27 events in year one. We've already booked 30. We haven't opened the facility. At the Myrtle Beach Sports Center, we were open on day one. We had 100% of our year one forecast already booked. That's exactly how a facility like this should operate. There's a pre-opening process during construction for registrations and integration and hard hat tours and everything else that's happening that is necessary to achieve those successes. It's not just an if you build it, they will come model. That doesn't work. You have to have qualified marketing and pre-registration happening during that construction cycle.
Could you give us any help in, we have space that we haven't we thought of what we could do in there. I assume as part of this, you could say, you know what, for your community with this many kids, a Ninja Turtle space would be a great thing, or whatever that would be part of it.
Yeah, provide, if that's within, and so that is the kind of thing, as an example.
Part of this is also, it's not just sports, it's cultural,
it's events. So all these facilities, the Rocky Mountain Event Center is an event center. The reason so many people are building youth and amateur sports tourism facilities that can be converted into all kinds of things, concerts and festivals and birthday parties and reunions and graduations. The reason there's a growth in that, now you may have seen the New York Times article this weekend, is because these facilities have proven themselves to be recession resistant. So in the recession, youth travel sports, and I'm not suggesting that's where you want to be, but youth travel sports, which is driving your local use, by the way, because so much of your local use is followed by travel sports. But youth travel sports is the only segment in the travel industry to never decline in a single quarter throughout the recession, according to the U.S. Travel Association. It's the fastest growing segment of the travel industry and has been since 2011. And currently, it's forecasted to grow by 20% a year over the next 5 years, and big players are coming in the marketplace. So we don't currently see any reason for there to be a real slowdown in it. It's a question of what's your place within that. So if you're equipping your own citizens to participate how they want to in sport, but you're also leaving an inventory of time for those people who want to participate but don't necessarily want to be hyper-competitive and aren't necessarily striving to be elite, because it's not good for every kid, I think you can achieve that here. Absolutely. And you have so many development hurdles already covered in which you have a site, right? And you're already spending quite a lot of money, I'm sure, and you have to upkeep that facility. So to convert that into something that's productive, that's healthy, and that's good, and it is an event center where you can host all kinds of things. That would be one of your definitions of success. That would say, okay, that is a must. Let's analyze what kinds of events we can host and get that inventory in there. That's exactly what we do for you. And to your point about other environments or other concepts, we'll bring our full brain power to you.
You mentioned project management. Have you been a project manager role in the 2 projects in Long Island and Brooklyn?
Yes, that's where we became, they took our documents to make it so. That was exactly what we did, and they'd be happy to talk to you about our work with
Your
them.
experience with New York trades, New York unions, prevailing wage.
Every market in just about the world is different in those ways. But yes, we're quite familiar.
That's what I said about New York.
Absolutely.
Did you bring the project in on time? Hit your deadlines?
Yes, we've never had a late project, we've never had a project that missed, none of that. So, but that's from conservative forecasting. That's telling you that it's going to take 18 months to do this when we think we can do it in 14. Right? There's some holdback when you're being conservative, and everybody at the table will know that. But we'll build out a pre-opening project timeline. The transparency is critical to this. So our pre-opening timelines have everything you might imagine. So if we get that far, right? Our pre-opening timelines have the date that you're going to make any particular hire. They have when the business cards go live, when the website goes live, every detail. And everyone in this room would have access to that document. You'd be able to say, maybe it's Thursday, July 14th. Aren't we supposed to see the website go live today? And boom, you'll see it happen. That communication with our clients, again, we live in the public sector, that communication with our clients, that transparency helps to keep things on track. And then be conservative, start early. And we will say no to things that put us in a jam.
We've had 2 sessions with the public. The community came in, and I noticed that in terms of that space that we have not given any thought to yet, one gentleman mentioned the fact that some of the schools around, private schools, have STEM centers, and that got a big reaction. And also it would be an opportunity for youngsters who possibly are not, or members of the community who are possibly not interested or drawn toward athletics or activities of that nature, but would really flourish in that kind of a setting. Have you ever created that kind of a space?
We sure have. A lot of our facilities have after-school programming. They have, in Rocky Mountain, we have a free health clinic in the facility that'll provide 1,800 mammograms this next year. We have education centers in facilities. We have everything you might imagine. Now, we would not be able to forecast how a STEM center, we would not be able to accurately forecast the financial model for a STEM center, where we could tell you what the building would cost to build it, and we can work with whoever that STEM enterprise or entity is to figure out what lease payment they'll pay into that building. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's not our expertise to figure out what an after-school program, as an example, might draw. That is us in partnership with the local organization that's going to run that after-school program. All of your social, educational, and other things need to be managed with a partner that's local, that's got deep ties in the community. It's one thing to run a sport and recreation facility, and obviously our people live in those communities, but if we're involved in that, or if we're even forecasting it, we'll tell you what we can do and what we can't. Does that make sense? I couldn't tell you how a STEM center really operates.
Yeah, no, it does make sense, because when people throw around STEM is a curriculum term.
Yes.
So that's related to a school, private or public, so it would be difficult to say that we're going to just build a STEM center. But going back a little bit, having a technology resource center for seniors, for children, that
those entities become, what does it cost to build? What is the carrying cost for that? What does the lease payment have to be in order for this environment to work? Or what does the revenue generation have to be in order for it to work as cost neutral? Or if you're trying to subsidize it, then you'd say, okay, here's what it is. But we need that local group to participate. I mean, listen, we'll need local groups to help us look at local pricing. That's the way this works. You know, it's you don't come in with a computer, push a button, and say, here's your forecast. You engage with people and talk about how people are buying and what they're buying and what they're doing. It's a really deep dive. And then you confirm that those things that you're forecasting are possible and that they're within market range and that they're conservative based on real world operations we've got access to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so looking at the model that the concept that we put out to the public talked about some sporting aspect and then some open free spacing. So that open free spacing would have to be pretty nailed down in order for this project to have accurate projections, forecasts, project management going into it.
And we'll help you with that. Exactly right.
Just one question. You've worked with construction management teams, obviously.
Every day.
You work with them to provide that service.
That's correct. Yep. Yep. And the main reason for that is that most of those hires, the councils we work for desire to hire them from the region.
Now, please, can you just explain it? Construction management team versus project manager?
Yeah, so let's take the Rocky Mountain North Trail. We are responsible for developing and delivering the operation, right? The construction team is responsible for building a building that sustains that operation. So we provide them with all of the spec, we provide them with all of we procure typically most of the sport-specific equipment because we're a volume buyer. So what you could buy hardwood court for, we can typically buy it for 50% of that. We'll buy 9 million square feet of artificial. So our role in that, there's slices and dices, but the construction manager is responsible for it, and they have legal
So that's not part
responsibility.
of the project manager?
That's right. So you will end up with, and they can all be tucked under one development team. We're on a team, right? But our expertise is around how do you make sure this is built on time and it's operational while we're staffing up and we're building the marketing and everything else that needs to be done, all the programs, the websites, the marketing material.
So from my experience with project managers, they meet with the various construction aspects.
That's right.
And then you oversee those construction aspects.
Yeah, the difference here, you're right, we are a voice in that team, but the construction manager has legal responsibility. Yeah. No,
They're like, the procurement supply chain.
We want to build, we want to build a hockey rink.
This is
This and this, and then make sure it's.
They're like, like you said, they're like kind of supply chain procurement and specialists to kind of feed the construction.
we build the operation.
Yeah.
And we advise the construction team on how to ensure that McDonald's doesn't, or let's take an arena. If you built an arena, you would hire a general contractor. Then you would hire the operator of the arena, right? To tell that general contractor about the spec and then to stay on top of them. So we are, as an example, Rocky Mountain, we're opening in 30 days. Our people are on site. Our people are receiving all of the things that we've purchased on their behalf. Our people are meeting with the construction team. We meet 3 times a week. We have a Monday, a Wednesday, and a Friday meeting. So we're a voice in that, but the actual legal responsibility for the construction management and the risk that's associated with that, the liquidated damages and other things, they are all on a regional construction and development team. So we're part of that, okay? Capable, well, here's the way I would say it. We make it possible,
Stage 2 or 3, first
if
thing.
we ever get there. I mean, listen, a small percentage of projects make it past this feasibility phase. I'm here because we've looked at the market. We think that your general concept has some legs. I think it will require some refinement, but that's the stage we're in now. And as you get to know us, which will be many, many months from now, and you'll actually see deliverables, and you'll get to know our people, and you'll see our projects. You'll probably, some of you may want to go fly and travel around and see a bunch of projects that we've been directly involved with, so you can actually talk to and, put your hands on it. But that's months away, when you will put out an RFP to determine who's the team that's going to build the complex, okay?
Do you assist in any building and financing, recommendations, teams, bonding?
We do.
Types of bonding?
Yeah, so following these deliverables, if you want us to, we can involve in what we call finance support services. So we bring people to the table who are finance partners who have finance projects, who want a finance project like this. Your bonds, every project we've done in the last year that's been a publicly funded project has had some, significant portion of it funded through bonds. So we'll be sitting with bond counsel. There's a whole lot of work that has to be done around that. They'll be vetting the project and looking at our financials. That's the world we live in. Yeah. So we'll be here with you to stand by those numbers through whatever phase might be necessary. And if you want us to bring people to the table from a financing standpoint, we'll do that. And if you want us to say, look, we've got that covered, we just need you here to showcase what you forecasted and why that's real, and we'll do that. If you said, we'd like you to manage the facility after we forecasted it and we, have a good relationship, et cetera, we can do that. If you said, we'd just like you to advise our team to do that. We want to do it ourselves. Parks and Recs wants to run this thing, but we want you to advise them through the whole thing. We will do that. We're here to give you what you need and what you want. We'll tell you if someone's going to hurt you.
Christine is part of our cultural and recreation affairs.
Great.
So to one of the concepts that was brought up before, whatever we're thinking about would probably be a mixed use, what's cultural. Can you provide us with some of the best examples of the most mixed use projects that you?
Yeah, so sports, special events, recreation, and entertainment. Those are the four main uses for sport, recreation, special events, and entertainment. Education is also in there, but if you look at how it actually uses a facility, education is often an after-school program. Its total number of hours in a facility, its total footprint are not quite as large as the others. Those special events can range from everything you might imagine. We're going to design the program plan around what this marketplace needs. So again, I'll go to Rocky Mount, North Carolina, because you can go see it on HBO. It also has really good data online. You can see the actual performer we delivered to the city of Rocky Mount on their website, so you can get a sense of the product. We've updated those since, and it's a great product. So that's Rocky Mount Event Center in the city's Rocky Mount, North Carolina. If you want to look at the national deliverable, I'd say before you hire us, you should look at deliverables. What are we actually going to give you? Because you have a picture in your mind. That picture should be exactly what you get at the end, so we can show you updated, and we'll deliver some of those too. So, but the reason I say Rocky Mount is because Rocky Mount was into their definition of success was downtown revitalization. That's a different definition than we have. But that program plan meant that we needed to create activity that would happen Monday to Thursday, not just on weekends. And then we needed enough tournaments and events on weekends to drive hotel development in downtown Rocky Mount for the first time in 20-something years. When we drove into town, I said, I don't know if this works. I really did. We looked at the demographics, we really know if this works. And then we started to dig a little further. We found out that Rocky Mount's already hosting 100,000 tournament visitors a year because of its convenient location, and we discovered a bunch of other things. Downtown is really blighted. That program plan, when you enter it, has a large family entertainment center, rock climbing gyms, giant slides, everything that a kid would ever dream of is in a portion of that facility. It has conference and meeting rooms for local events. Rotarians and others can go have lunch there and have an event at an inexpensive level and rate. And it has a major hall that's designed to be used in a variety of different ways. So we don't typically like fixed seating. Fixed seating takes up floor space. It means you can't use it for anything. Good development is versatility and density. You have to be versatile in its use, and you have to be dense. Even ice, anything, water, is less versatile than a hardcore, right? So when we start thinking about the ice surfaces in the ice environment, we start thinking about how it can be used in a variety of different ways. But that facility, conference rooms, meeting rooms, a bona fide, true, big kitchen that we can do big catered events out of, it needed to be so versatile to host all kinds of events. Then a main sporting hall that can be converted with covered floors into just about any kind of concert or other. And then the health clinic, which is sort of a very important aspect of downtown Rocky Mount, because that community is so in need that for people to be able to walk there is really important. So that was all driven by Rocky Mount. here locally, you know, you're gonna say to us, well, we need event space, we need to have a graduation. We're gonna take all of those things into account and then come back to you with a program plan that we think will do that. Okay?
Judy's another member of the recreation.
Is your thinking on this particular project that you would look at this space and say what is most effective in this space? Or is it to validate what we've already said, not said, what we've already conceptually looked at, like an ice hockey rink or soccer or whatever?
Well, it's not to validate them, that would not be our job. And so our job is to evaluate them. We'll do both, because nobody would be satisfied if said, well, we're not even gonna look at hockey, let's just look at X, Y, and Z. So we're gonna look at everything that the stakeholders and other people ask us to look at, and then we're gonna come back to you with what we see as the highest and best use. So I don't know the answer to what that final program plan will be. We are heavily influenced by what our client directs us to think about. So in Southampton, when they said we really want an aquatic center, we got kids who don't know how to swim, we were pretty lasered on that. Yours will be a little more broad because you have a big site and a lot of options. But we're certainly going to end up looking at hockey, I'm certain, because we've had enough discussion about it. When I say look at, let me be clear, that means evaluate it. It means consider what the program plan could be. And if we don't think that it's the right thing, we're going to tell you that we don't think it's the right thing.
Right, because isn't part of the challenge is the building is configured one way, it could be, you don't even know what you're working with.
That's
in a
right.
sense,
That's exactly right. No, that's exactly right. It's so early for us and me, I can't make any conclusions. Give you an example. In Connecticut, we had a guy who wanted to hire us to do an indoor sports facility. He was an ex-Army Ranger. By the time we were done, he had a zip line adventure park for $150,000 instead of a $20 million facility. We now own 2 businesses with him. That was 15 years ago. We are conservative and realistic. We think about taxpayer money. I call it little old lady money. That's the world we live in. We really value and think about that. We value citizens who are talking about and concerned with how money's being spent. You know, we don't think it's good for the economic and the health of the community. We don't do it. Okay? Yeah. I'll say this, we don't have a second story. This is it. This will be the same voice and tone you get from me if we're working together for 4 or 5 years. And it's the same with our folks on our team. It's not, we never borrowed a dollar. We've grown out of cash flow. We don't need the next job. 50 people, 40, 50 organizations or communities that call us next week. We're looking for those projects where we can make a really big difference. And we don't need to collude with the client to tell them that something's good for them that's going to end up being bad, and that would be horrible for our reputation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Again, as Deb said, go to their website, a lot of info on it. We appreciate it. Can I get a motion to adjourn? We're going to do an executive session. We have a meeting with our fire measure. Trustee Hire makes that motion. Trustee Trino seconds that motion. All in favor? And